Greetings and salutations, DMs, GMs, referees, judges, game operations directors, and all other varieties of storytellers. This is your DM, Scott, and
your DM, Bill, and
I am Lou.
And it's time for another DM Quick Tip.
Hey, Bill and Scott, how you guys doing tonight?
Hey, Lou, what time did you get here?
oh, what? We've been waiting forever for you to.
I feel like I just walked in. Let me have a sip. Hold on.
Yeah. I'm feeling like you just walked in too.
Wow. I hope those are okay for you guys.
They are. Thank you.
Well, this is a DM quick tip, but we're all together again. And we're all together again for this DM quick tip because we got a letter, an email.
Yeah, no,
Back in the old
I
days,
think a letter is probably closer than the email. This one's
Well, it was a long one.
yeah, longer than usual.
And we do get them occasionally. But this is a juicy one. This is from one of our listeners. So the end, of course, is what should I do? Right? That's the the end of the letter. So this is what it says. Dear Dungeon Masters Dojo, that's us.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I've been playing in a game with someone who is GMing for the first time. We need more GMs.
We
out
need
there.
more, especially first time guys.
Yep. The game has been running for several months now, and he's been doing a good job. That's great to hear.
Congratulations.
Recently, he allowed my character to have a bag of holding. Shenanigans ensued. My GM warned me that I better come up with a good plan if I want to get away with my loot. At the beginning of our most recent session, my GM openly mocked me for not knowing how a bag of holding worked, when in fact I did because I had the DMG open in front of me. I said about my plan without telling him what it was. Time was running short, and he allowed my character to escape with the loot. Afterwards, I explained my plan. The GM disagreed with how the bag of holding worked. I let him know that the item that he was describing was Heward's handy haversack. I then told him my contingency plan was to pierce the bag, effectively destroying the item, and scattering the contents on the astral plane, as it is written in the DMG. He disagreed, saying the contents would scatter at the location we were in, and declared that he was overruling how the item worked, as God. Not as a new GM with several months' experience, but as God. What should I do? Ooh, that's a big one, huh? We're going to have to dissect this. It's like biology class, and we got a fetal pig.
Like onion. We have to take this one apart in layers.
So let's start with
let's start at the beginning.
That is awesome. You got a new GM. It's awesome. Your group is a receptive, to having a new GM, and kudos for this GM for jumping in there and taking on this. It's a big job.
It could be daunting.
He's been running, or she's been running for several months now and doing a good job. Excellent to hear. Support your DM. Give them encouragement. It's really important to kind of keep them wanting to show up.
Encouragement's really, really important, especially in the beginning. Later on, gifts of food and beverages, and then when you get around my age, just simple money works.
Tribute,
well.
or is it Geritol?
Tithing, yes, tithing of a $20 bill and a brand new bottle of Mucilex.
Yes, that's. So if you're ever at Bill's table, it's pretty easy. Go to the gerontology aisle of CVS.
Glucosamine goes a long ways.
Recently allowed my character to have a bag of holding. Shenanigans ensued. Good plan.
I'm assuming a roguish type class.
That's what I'm gathering. A rogue type class.
Shenanigans ensued, and I need to get away with my loot.
Yes. Definitely roguey.
Yep.
Shenanigans, of course, imply a rogue. But if you're not a rogue, a little shenanigans, pretty much anybody can do that at the gaming table, right?
I know that guy.
Yeah, me too. He's a clown, a super heroic clown. Long story.
Yep.
This is where I start to be like, oh no, this is terrible. At the beginning of our most recent session, my GM openly mocked me for not knowing how a bag of holding worked. Mocking's not cool.
Mocking's not cool.
Yeah. If you're going to question something, do so in, for lack of a better term, a professional or kindly worded manner.
Possibly pull the person aside.
Yeah.
And as opposed to doing it across the table, openly mocking means it's probably across the gaming table.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what I gathered. As a DM, you are not expected to know everything.
Correct.
Right. So or you shouldn't be expected to know everything. That's a standard. That's a high standard to hold yourself to. And it could lead to burnout and an unpleasant GM experience for you, the GM, and for your players. So GMs, nobody should expect you to know everything about everything in D&D. You don't have to know all the rules and how everything works, but you can ask, and you should ask, okay, how does that work again? And move on from there. But the mocking.
Yeah, I'm not big on the mocking. And chances are pretty good when someone has a magic item, they have what it does, its effects, its durations, everything to go along with that. They already have it either transferred onto their character sheet for easy reference, maybe a magic item flashcard, or they have the book open to it.
Yes.
As he stated he did.
And especially when you look over and you see a DMG in front of your player,
Yeah.
chances are pretty good they're quoting the DMG.
Lou, can you pull up on D&D Beyond? Is that something you can do and let us know?
He's our tech guy. He can do anything.
How it works?
No,
Not that site. This is a family show.
Oops. You weren't supposed to see
But
that.
she looked like she took good care of herself.
Send me that link.
It's on its way.
Thank you. Sometimes I have to test my blood pressure medicine.
Because, and I want to say it, I may be wrong because as a DM, I certainly don't know all the rules backwards and forwards. I'm actually probably the worst rules person at this table right now. But Heward's Handy Haversack and Bag of Holding are similar.
Correct.
But different.
But there's quite a difference. That looks like a purse my mom's friend had back in the 70s. The bag of holding there. She was kind of a hippie.
Yeah, it's got the tassels. All you need is a couple of beads, and you're right there.
I think it was the tassels that threw Lou off, and that's why I went to that first website accidentally. So the bag has an interior space considerably larger than its outside dimensions. Basically, it's a TARDIS, roughly 2 feet in diameter at the mouth and 4 feet deep. The bag can hold up to 500 pounds, not exceeding a volume of 64 cubic feet. The bag weighs 15 pounds, regardless of its contents. Retrieving an item from the bag requires an action. Okay, fairly simple. If the bag is overloaded, pierced, or torn, and this comes up in the letter we received, It ruptures and is destroyed. So it breaks. It's no longer any good. You can't use it. And its contents are scattered in the astral plane. Yeah, you're correct. If the bag is turned inside out, its contents spill forth unharmed. But the bag must be put right before it can be used again. You got to turn it. What is it?
Right side in.
Right side in.
Instead of inside out.
Yeah. Breathing creatures inside the bag can survive up to a number of minutes equal to 10 divided by the number of creatures, minimum 1 minute, after which time they begin to suffocate. Yeah, so don't do the Paris Hilton thing with your bag of holding and put your little yip dog in there. Placing a bag of holding inside an extra dimensional space created by a handy haversack, portable hole, or similar item instantly destroys both items and opens a gate to the astral plane. The gate originates where the one item was placed inside the other. Any creature within 10 feet of the gate is sucked through it to a random location on the astral plane. The gate then closes. The gate is one way only and can't be reopened. So, yeah, you got to catch a flight back to the prime material plane, which is going to be really costly. Okay, so
They charge for baggage, too.
they,
Physical and emotional.
so it sounds like he was right.
It sounds like he was right.
What's this Heward's handy haversack look like? Heward's, right?
Yes. HEWARD''S.
Heward made a lot of stuff, huh? He's got a handy spice pouch. I had one of those back in the 80s. So
For your oregano.
Yeah. The handy haversack. It's a backpack, has a central pouch and 2 side pouches, each of which is an extra dimensional space. Each side pouch can hold up to 20 pounds of material, not exceeding a volume of 2 cubic feet. The large central pouch can hold up to 8 cubic feet or 80 pounds of material. The backpack always weighs 5 pounds regardless of its contents. Placing an object in the haversack follows the normal rules for interacting with objects. Retrieving an item from the haversack requires you to use an action. When you reach into the haversack for a specific item, the item is always magically on top. The haversack has a few limitations. If it is overloaded or if a sharp object pierces it or tears it, the haversack ruptures and is destroyed. If the haversack is destroyed, its contents are lost forever, although an artifact always turns up again somewhere. If the haversack is turned inside out, its contents spill forth unharmed, and the haversack must be put right before it can be used again. Somewhat similar.
Somewhat?
Yeah. If a breathing creature is placed within the haversack, the creature can survive for up to 10 minutes, after which time it begins to suffocate. Placing the haversack inside another extra dimensional space by a bag of holding, portable hole, or similar item instantly destroys both items and opens a gate to the astral plane, just like it did with the bag of holding.
I think the only big difference I've seen between the two of those is the bag of holding does not really state how you get your items out, whether or not you can summon an item, where the haversack does state
It's
that
always on top.
it's always on top. It doesn't say that with the bag of holding. So it doesn't really, I guess that is the one thing that could possibly be interpreted by your game master, whether or not it works like the haversack and it's always on top, or whether or not you have to dig through layers. I see that as probably the only interpretable point.
And in neither one of those would drop the contents right then and there if you pierced it.
When it's destroyed, yes.
Yeah, one is destroyed, the other one ends up in the astral plane.
Now, I have a question.
Yes.
So just piercing this bag
Yep.
will rupture it and
Yes.
suck everything through it, right?
Yeah.
So me as a DM, what I would have did is something is a little different. Instead
Do
of saying,
tell.
I would have made the person make some strength rolls because he has to put his hand inside to rupture it, correct?
Yes.
So it's going to suck everything into.
Well, you can rupture it from the outside, but it has a pretty high DC.
Right, but if you're going on the inside, because
Yep.
that's why they tell you not to put anything sharp inside of it.
Right.
So I'm just saying, instead of mocking somebody and saying it doesn't work that way, I would have did rules as they're being stated.
Yep.
That if you're piercing it, if your hand is inside and you're piercing the bag, it's going to suck.
Okay. Rules is written. Where does it say that it has to be pierced from the inside?
No, I'm saying rules written, but I'm saying if
Yeah.
you're piercing it from the
If
inside,
you're piercing it from the inside, yes.
it's so
You would have to make a strength because
Yeah.
you would be drawn into the astral plane
That's
as well.
my point.
Oh, yeah. I can see that.
That's what I would have done. I would have chosen my words a little bit more carefully, and not openly mock somebody. Number one.
Yep.
That just leads to a little bit of animosity.
It does. It sends a message to the other players at the table too. It says, okay, well, from my viewpoint, I could be the next player to get that kind of treatment at the table, and
Yes.
and I would be questioning whether or not it was the right table for me to be at.
From my viewpoint, it's adversarial at that moment.
It is, and one of the things I've said this before, I'm pretty sure on the podcast, is everybody sitting at the table is a player, even the dungeon master.
Yeah, you've mentioned that once or twice.
The the role the dungeon master has is different than the role the players have, but you can't, as a dungeon master, you can't run a game if you have no players at your table, right? And it's hard to run a game with a bunch of players and no dungeon masters. So y'all like need each other.
Well, to that point, the dungeon master, whether you're playing a character or NPCs, you are a contributor, not a you're not dictating what's going on. You're contributing.
Exactly.
It's not a narrative. So I think now I'm going to play the devil's advocate here.
I was about to do the same thing.
It sounds like he's been running for months. He's been doing very well. And he even said he's doing a good job. Allowed him to make a plan. What's the chances he just had a bad day?
Yeah, or he wasn't entirely familiar. I mean, everybody's had those days where work was an absolute nightmare, right? And you didn't get enough sleep, and maybe you just didn't have the prep time that you normally have.
Or in my case, maybe I prepped just a little bit too much.
Yep. Yeah, and that could be that could be it too. It's like
with
over
that being said, I'm taking another sip. If you get my drift.
Yeah, that's something.
It seems like the game master that evening may have been a little off his game,
which happens
and
to all of us.
You could have been frustrated with nothing, not necessarily with the table, the players, or anything like that. But just like the players go in there with their barbarian, and all of a sudden they're going to release all the rage that they've been dealing with in real life, occasionally your game master may do the same thing. I think this is something that perhaps maybe the player needs to directly contact the game master, let him know that he's not questioning him, but okay, were you off a little bit that night? I mean, I literally have the book in front of me. And if the rules are going to be interpreted differently each and every time, is this a homebrew world, or are we actually running in, are we running canon?
I think, and this is my opinion, if I'm running a game and if I give Bill an item,
you're in trouble.
I should at least know what that item does. And if I want it to act differently, I'm going to tell you ahead of time.
There you go. That should be stipulated then.
It's just like in the games that I run on Wednesdays along with the other guys that we rotate through. We need to know what we're doing, what we're giving away. And when I give items away, I already have a plan why people have those items.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
So, I mean, just don't give an item because it looks cool.
Yeah, or the player asked for it.
Yeah, at least if
I would love to have one of these.
Yeah, and if you do, at least just read over it a little bit. And if you have questions, you can say, hey, guys, I'm not sure how this works. Let's talk it over.
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee if your player's asking for it, he has a plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
He wants that for a reason. That's why he asked for it.
Yep.
And so be wary, because your player has a plan. And if you don't know what that plan is, then ask. And if you aren't sure, then don't give it away.
Exactly.
Well, it sounds like the player asked for it.
It sounds like,
right,
yes.
Because he said, recently he allowed my character to have a bag of holding. So it doesn't appear as though from the letter that it was found in like a
he was allowed to have. So
right.
it varies very, I would interpret that 100% as it was asked for.
So one of the things from a DM standpoint is don't do that. Right? Because if you're stocking your adventure, I'm hoping, right? If you're stocking your adventure, I'm hoping you're looking at, okay, what am I going to put in there? What does it do? Is it going to do something like if it falls in the wrong hands?
Yeah.
And there's a couple people at our gaming table who, when you stock your adventure, you have to think, what if this falls in Tom's hands? What is he going to do with it? Some shit that I'm not going to expect.
Right.
Or Lou.
I'm not even going to comment.
I'm glad I'm so mundane and predictable.
So you just can't put anything in your hands. So that's something that, you have to really you have to really do your research on, it's knowing your players too.
Yes.
It sounds like he asked for it for a reason, because he had some sort of idea of what he was going to do with it in advance, and the GM gave it to him. And that's not to cast aspersions on the GM, right?
No.
These are all opportunities to, when you're brand new, you're going to make mistakes. Shit, when you've been running games for 40 years, you're going to make mistakes. There's just no avoiding it.
Yeah.
So these are all like learning experiences, I think, in the case. But I would say really like mocking, not cool. You know, granted, he may have, or she may have had a bad day, because we all get that. Now the other thing, the referring to yourself as God. And we talked about this a little bit. It's like,
Yeah.
I've had a couple DMs, GMs, game operations, whatever you want to call them, that would refer to themselves as God at the table. And I just, it was one of those things that there's a few things that I find like annoying. Like when people say, "Hey man, I appreciate you." I don't want to hear that. It's, "I appreciate it. Thanks." I don't want to hear any of that stuff. That, and when a GM refers to himself as God. That's why I have a metal set of dice in my dice tackle box. In the event I run across that, I just want to fling all of them at the person at the head of it.
Is that why you borrowed one of my files so you can sharpen all the edges?
It's gotta be you think the D4 is sharp to begin with, but this is like a ninja weapon now. But it's just one of those things. It's like, you're not God. Your decision at the gaming table is final, but there's better ways,
Better terminology.
Yeah, there is.
Now, I've oftenly told people, pick up that piece of paper in front of you and take a look at it, front and back, multiple pages if necessary. That is you. Everything about that is you. You need to embrace every single line, every character, every skill, every task, every appearance, everything on that sheet. That's you. The rest of the universe is me. Now, I'm presenting the monsters. I'm presenting the magic. I'm presenting the NPCs. I'm the one that wrote the scenario, and we together are going to tell a story. But I'm going to present the bullet points necessary to keep that story moving forward and everything that goes along with it. Now, does that make you a god? No, by no means. Even if you're playing one, I just think that the terminology was poorly put forward, and I'm hoping this was just a one-off, just a bad day, overly tired, had an argument with someone at work or home, came home and found that the cat shit in your hat, something that just set you off, and it's just kind of creeping and stewing in the back of your head, and that's how it came out.
And I would think that it probably did. You know, you want to give people the benefit of the doubt. Running a game is a huge responsibility, especially if you're a new DM. It can be very daunting, very intimidating. For the DMs out there, you don't have to know everything about the game.
That's why there's books.
I was just going to say the same thing.
It's not necessary.
Yeah.
There's times where at my game, and I've played through every single iteration of D&D since Chainmail.
Amen, brother. I've been with you.
And I've never known the rules backwards and forwards. The one rule set that I knew really well was 2.
Yep.
Because I was playing that for like 30 years, so I better.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
Yeah. And And there were times and I wasn't as good at it as Bill, but I could tell you where to find the information down to the page number for a big chunk of 2 and 2.5. Bill could quote you like he could quote the rules of 2 like I could quote Wrath of Khan lines, but
yeah, that's true.
I still didn't know everything. Right. And with all these books that are out there, you shouldn't be expected to know everything. If you do know everything, you're some sort of savant, or listen, you need to go out and hold someone's hand. I don't care, a boy, girl, whatever, and have a good time. Go have dinner or something like that. See a movie, engage with you, because you're spending too much time on D&D if you know all the rules. Other than that, or you're a savant and way, way smarter than me.
So I think it boils down to, all right, give your game master a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, cut him some slack. He's a person too.
Yeah, he's a person too. Perhaps that's what happened. If it's still bothering you, talk to your game master.
Make a phone call.
Yeah, independently. And just say, hey, listen, this is what happened, and it's kind of bothering me.
Yeah, I think it was a little messed up, right. and you know what? From what you said, he may not or she may not realize that that's how it came out.
Yeah, it's possible.
And that's a question from a listener. We'll see you next time in the dojo. That's going to conclude this episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Please subscribe to the podcast for more great content. If you'd like to hear a particular topic, you can reach us on Facebook at the Dungeon Masters Dojo, or you can drop us an email at thedungeonmastersdojo@gmail.com. Thank you, and have a good day.